Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a revisit of the Ordeal, the Grandmaster's Gauntlet Ordeal. This is content that's still very worth doing. There's great rewards in here, a full Tier 7 basic, 4 Tier 4 alpha, half of a 7-star awakening gem, a Titan Nexus crystal, really solid rewards in here for not that much effort. It's definitely difficult content, but I would not say it is like the most difficult content in the game. So it's definitely worth doing if you have the roster for it. So the first thing that I'll mention here about the Ordeal is that it is 7-star only content. You cannot use any lower star characters in this content. It is 7 stars only. So that is something very important to know going into this content. It is just like the Grandmaster's Gauntlet. It is the Grandmaster's Gauntlet. It just has like triple the health. So the original Grandmaster's Gauntlet was not restricted by star or rarity, and all of the fights in there have health pools ranging from like 500,000 to a million. The Ordeal has health pools ranging from like 1.5 to 2.5 million health. Just going and looking at the Doom here. Yeah, this is 1.6 million health. It's basically like a harder Labyrinth of Legends, pretty much, if every character had like the low Labyrinth health pool, aside from a couple of characters in specific, like Sasquatch has almost 3 million health, 2.5, and then I believe Thanos has just under 2.2 million. So yeah, this is difficult content, but it's like a strong 7-star roster can get through this no problem. So what I'm essentially going to do is I'm going to go through every single fight and name 5 characters that would be able to work for that fight. Obviously, these will all be 7-star characters and not anything lower because the Ordeal is star gated. So we're going to only be talking about 7 stars here. So let's get right into it. So with Doctor Doom here, he's got this node called Size Matters. And Size Matters is essentially a glancing node. And with this glancing node, he also has Micro Reflect. So if you glance, you take damage back from the hit that was glance. Now, extra large characters ignore this node. So if you're an extra large character like Onslaught, Immortal Hulk, Immortal Abomination, you completely ignore this node and you don't have to worry about it. Large champions can also get around it. Technically any character can get around it, but you're going to want a character that can like bypass most, if not all, of the glancing requirements from the Size Matters node. So 5 characters off the top of my head that would work very well for this. Onslaught, Immortal Abomination, both of those characters would be fantastic for this fight. If we look at the 7-star roster here, another great option would be Arnim Zola. If you have Arnim Zola, he'd be great. Another option for this fight would be Juggernaut. Juggernaut's a great one. And then Sentinel would be fantastic for this fight, just spamming special 2s. It might be a little bit of a longer fight. Doom is very tanky, but it's going to be a pretty safe fight with an XL champion. Just have to watch out for like I said, the glancing if you're not using an XL character. And just fighting a big Doctor Doom is pretty much the big issue there. So moving on to Trax. Trax is a pretty difficult fight, kind of a hard character to like work around when building a team of 5. There are characters that work for him. Onslaught's another one. Onslaught can pretty much do every single fight in here. I'll call out specifically the fights that I don't believe you should use Onslaught for, but I personally used Onslaught here, and he was very, very effective. Another great character would be somebody like Shathra. Shathra has a great regeneration from her special 3 that can heal that energy damage. Mr. Sinister would also probably be very solid, just a lot of willpower healing. Any character with high energy resistance, Purgatory as well would be great. High energy resistance or like some form of regeneration would be incredibly good. So I'll name Onslaught, Purgatory, Shathra. I will throw Rintrah in there as well. Rintrah's great for Trax, gains a lot of benefit from the armor breaks. And I'll also say that Kushala would be very good for Trax as well. She's got great energy resistance, and she deals a lot of damage through Incinerate and damage over time, and that can get around like the Indestructibles, preventing hit damage from Trax. The next fight is Vision. Vision is a pretty easy fight if you have a counter. The only thing you need with Vision here is like some sort of taunt AI manipulation because Power Drain is not going to work, and he has minor aspect of death and defender bias rising. So what that means is Vision is going to throw his specials in sequential order, so special 1, special 2, special 3. And this iteration of Vision has that power gain every like so many seconds. I don't remember how many seconds it is to gain the power. It's like 30 seconds maybe. But he gains power, and it can be really dangerous because a special 3 is instant KO with minor aspect of death. So you want a character that has taunt or a character that can deal massive damage before Vision has a chance to get to the special 3. So personally, I ended up using OG She-Hulk, but one of the best options for this fight, and one of the best options for the Ordeal in general, is Deathless She-Hulk. So I'll start with those two, OG She-Hulk and Deathless She-Hulk. Spiderham is another fantastic option. He's got taunt, and it's a very potent taunt. So definitely go for that if you can. Medusa totally shuts the opponent down. Vision is a robot that can have visibility accuracy modified, so Medusa can just completely shut him down. And then one last option here, I will say, let's go with try to think of an out of the ordinary one. Let's go with a more recent character. Let's go with Solvarch. Solvarch has like power manipulation, and while he doesn't have any taunt, he can prevent Vision from throwing that special 3. And it might be a longer fight, but Solvarch can get it done. Modok. Modok is a bit more annoying now that he is buffed. This is the buffed version of Modok now. So he's a lot more threatening of a character, but honestly not that big of a deal. In the grand scheme of things, I think some of the best options for Modok, just calling some names out here, I think Yelena Belova would be very good for Modok. Onslaught is a character that I use for Modok. He does very, very well. Okoye would be pretty good, just kind of shutting Modok down. Any character that can bypass auto block in any sense of the way, whether you're unblockable or whether you have like true accuracy. If you can just Dex Modok Special 1 and land a heavy attack, you're going to be very, very successful. Lumitrix is another one that will be exceptionally good for Modok. And Shang-Chi can work very well just doing damage into the block and avoiding Modok that way. Also Null, just to shout out one final option there. Spiderham. So Spiderham's probably the most specific of the bunch. He is immune to debuffs in its entirety, and he's got a defender bias of being defensive, so he's not going to want to throw special attacks. So I personally used OG She-Hulk here just for the taunt and the AI manipulation, but any character that deals passive damage over time and or bypasses evade is going to be very good here. Serpent is a fantastic option. I do know people who have used Onslaught for this fight. Yelena Belova would also work for the evade bypass. Bastion as well. He's got the pursuit to bypass the evade. And then I'll also say Crossbones as well. Can just deal really solid amounts of damage to Spiderham. Weapon X, moving on to the next lane, it's just a big Weapon X. If you want to like really counter him, you could use a character like Warlock or Sentinel to just shut the healing down. Warlock and Sentinel would be very good. Also, Solvarch has a heal block, so if you want to use Solvarch, you can absolutely do that. Anybody really works for the Weapon X. It's just a big Weapon X at the end of the day. So Warlock is good. Deathless She-Hulk worked fine for me. OG She-Hulk also worked fine. Onslaught can do it. Spider-Woman, pretty much anybody can do this Weapon X fight. Thing, I ended up using OG She-Hulk here, but Deathless She-Hulk is very, very solid here as well. I'd almost prefer Deathless She-Hulk because she's not going to hit the damage cap from the basic hits, whereas OG She-Hulk will. So both of the She-Hulks work very well here. If you want to use a different option from Deathless She-Hulk or OG She-Hulk, you can use somebody like Bullseye, Stark Enhanced Spider-Man. Crossbones is very good for Thing as well. Silver Sable will work very well. Hitmonkey would just deal solid damage. Pretty much anybody can work. Apocalypse is very good for the Grandmaster's Gauntlet. He's another good option for that Doctor Doom fight as well, if you want to run a full mutant team. And then we get to Korg. So Korg is definitely the toughest fight in the Grandmaster's Gauntlet. Onslaught is like a go-to option, so incredibly good for this. Apocalypse as well is very, very solid for this fight. Deathless Thanos is very good. Jean Grey is very good. Any character that has like a passive stun or can get around the shrugging ability accuracy will be very good for Korg. Mr. Sinister would be solid as well. Lots of willpower healing there. Cassandra Nova as well has the passive stun and the non-contact hits, so she'd be very solid for that fight. Negasonic Teenage Warhead would be very good. Pretty much any mutant character that has like passive abilities is going to work for that Korg fight. Mixmaster and Flux Dispersal with Gauss Warp is very tough. It's a very tough node combination. So like hard block champions that have block regen like a Sorcerer Supreme would also be okay here, but I don't know if I would necessarily recommend Sorcerer Supreme. There's a lot of debuffs for Korg to shrug. Moving on to Dragon Man, any of the She-Hulks work here, OG She-Hulk or Deathless She-Hulk. Characters that have power control like Spider-Man 2099 will also be very good here. Quicksilver is a fantastic option for this Dragon Man as well. Any character that can burst the opponent down. Human Torch, another great option. America Chavez would work okay. I also think somebody like Juggernaut would be pretty decent here. Power control, high burst damage. Count Nefaria, incredibly good for this fight. Locks the power down and just deals so consistent, such consistent damage. So there's definitely some options. Void is another one. Just shut the power gain down from Dragon Man. Black Panther Civil War, pretty tough. I mean, Black Panther is a fairly dangerous defender in his own right, but adding in Footloose is kind of just another element. Personally, I did use Onslaught, and I found it to be totally fine. But if you want to use a different character, Nico Minoru would be incredibly good for this fight. Just turn off the Footloose and also turn off the Arc Overload. Another character that would work is Okoye, Stark Enhanced Spider-Man, Jean Grey. Basically, if you wait out the Footloose and you bait Special 1, you're pretty much fine as long as you're using a character that doesn't rely on damage over time debuffs. If you have like passives or you just deal high damage, you're going to be totally fine to take down Black Panther. Moving on to Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is unawakened, so that does make him a lot easier to fight. In the original version of the Gauntlet, I don't believe he is unawakened. I could be wrong about that. But it makes him a lot easier to counter. You basically just want like either an evade counter, or if you can do the Nightcrawler evade trick to turn off his mode, you're going to be totally fine here. So any evade counter, Bastion, Anti-Venom with the Decelerate, like Okoye with the Ensnare, anybody like that will work. Prowler is another great option. OG She-Hulk has the Slow. Any option like that. You can basically use anybody for Nightcrawler. If you either turn off the evade or just like play parry heavy, or parry medium, light, medium, no big deal. Spider-Woman, another evade option, so it would not be a bad idea to have like an evade character for this entire content. So that's why someone like Okoye Bastion would be very good here, because they shut off a lot of the difficult evade characters, and it can also be used in other fights, generally speaking. Like you can use Okoye for Thing. Actually, I'm sorry, not Okoye for Thing. You can use Okoye for Black Panther. You can use Okoye for Nightcrawler. You can use Okoye for Modok. Lots of different places you can use Okoye. So Spider-Woman, kind of the same thing. I don't remember who I used here. Professor X, great option for evade in general. Professor X also works for pretty much all of these fights. Modok, Spiderham, Korg, Weapon X, Dragon Man, Black Panther, and then Nightcrawler and Spider-Gwen. Professor X would definitely work for them. Like I said, Okoye also works very well. Bastion would be very good here. Venom counters Spider-Verse evade, so if you want to use Venom, totally cool to use it to do that. Prowler as well. You get the gist by this point. So moving on, we have Domino here. It's just pretty much a big Domino with Power Shield and Matador. Any character that is immune to ability accuracy modification, Red Skull, Prowler, any character with increased ability accuracy like Kushala, or just a character that can't be reduced like Arnim Zola will crush this fight. You don't necessarily need one of those characters for this. You can just basically use anybody if you have like high special damage, especially if your special attacks inflict damage over time effects. They're going to be increased by Power Shield. So definitely remember that when building a team here to fight Domino. Mojo, the easiest option here is just bring a character who is immune to buffs or immune to the buffs from like dexterity. So Shuri would be very good. Quicksilver is immune to the dexterity buff as well. Any buff immune champion, Titania, Spider-Man 2099. Miles Morales with the Spider-Man 2099 relic is immune to the dexterity buff. But if you don't want to do that, Onslaught works totally fine. Anti-Venom would be very good as well. Arnim Zola would also be fine. Human Torch would work incredibly well. Um, Lumitrix would be very good. Lots of options for this guy. Immortal Abomination is basically just a big Immortal Abomination. I used OG She-Hulk, but Deathless She-Hulk works fine here. Deathless Thanos is also very good. You can use a character like Anti-Venom or Bastion to get around the shenanigans of Immortal Abomination's poison. Arnim Zola would also work very well. If you want to use a character like Sentinel, you can. Sentinel would work very well. Solvark is immune to poison. Shang-Chi has cleanse, so he can get around the poison. Silver Sable's got the disorient, reducing science ability accuracy. Hyperion is immune to poison. Beta Ray Bill is resistant to poison. Vox is immune to poison, so lots of good options there. Moving on to Apocalypse, this is just a big Apocalypse, basically. You just don't want to use any robots here because they have their ability accuracy reduced. Unless you're someone like Nimrod who can have your ability accuracy reduced, then you don't want to use a robot here. But with Apocalypse, basically anybody works. Bastion would be great. Shocker, I believe, is the character that I used for him when I did a rerun of this content. Onslaught obviously works fantastic. Arnim Zola would be great. Deathless Thanos would be great. Stark Enhanced Spider-Man, Serpent, Human Torch with the Nova Flame. You could use Werewolf. You could use Deathless She-Hulk. She's got the block proficiency during mutant special attacks. Prowler would also be very good. Red Skull, Future Ant-Man. So many different options for this Apocalypse fight. Moving on to Sasquatch. Sasquatch has life cycle, which means damage over time debuffs are not going to deal any damage to him. So just be very aware of that when fighting Sasquatch. Both of the She-Hulks work very well here. Also, Onslaught is incredibly good here. I've also heard great success stories from people using characters like Human Torch here, and also characters like Juggernaut, Lumitrix, just kind of raw damage dealers who can just kind of beat the opponent up. Hulk as well. OG Hulk is very good for that fight. Mostly anybody can work for Sasquatch, just have to be very careful of that regen and the unstoppable from the last phase of the health. I actually recommend running the full Deathless team if you have it, because they can pretty much do every single fight in here. The only thing they'll have a little bit of trouble with is Korg, but even then you can use Thanos and you can get Korg down. But yeah, that's just a bit of a suggestion there. I do have a live stream of me doing it on my free-to-play account with the Deathless team. Moving on to Kilmonger here. Killmonger's pretty tough. Killmonger is a bit of a menace. Onslaught works, but it would be a very long fight. Jean Grey also works, kind of the same thing. Would be a bit of a long fight. Scream would be very good. Venom as well. Any character that has armor break and a damage over time debuff will work very well, because Killmonger has polka dot power. So just be aware that like using characters that don't have damage over time debuffs, you're not going to be getting any special attacks and gaining any power. So Sunspot would be fine. Any character, again, like I said, with armor break and with a damage over time debuff, specifically debuff, will be very good. Sentinel as well, very solid option. Moving on to one of the most niche characters in here is Void. Void can be handled by big special attacks, and that's honestly what I recommend. So someone like Shang-Chi or Okoye, just bursting him down with a special 2. If you can remove debuffs and also deal massive special damage, Void is going to drop like nobody's business. So, like I mentioned, Okoye, Shang-Chi, both great options. Onslaught is another great option, just building up to that special 2. Stark and Spider-Man, Venom, Serpent, very solid options in their own right. Black Panther Civil War can just burst them down in like a single special 2. Crossbones and Lumitrix, kind of the same thing, just building up to that special attack and ripping a massive amount of damage. Silver Sable as well is an incredibly good option. One of the best options actually for this Void fight, just constant purification of the debuffs. She handles it pretty well. Now we have Nick Fury with Lionheart. The only thing you want to avoid here is using a character that like reverses healing. So as long as you're not using, like a Void or any Petrify character here with intention, then you're not going to have to worry about the degen damage from Lionheart. Anybody works here. I used Onslaught. You can use pretty much anybody. Professor X, Deathless Thanos, Jean Grey, Okoye, Stark Spidey, Carolina Dean, Serpent, Gladiator, anybody works for this. It's just a big Nick Fury at the end of the day. Cassandra Nova would be actually pretty good for this fight because she shuts off Nick Fury's second life, so just a little tidbit there. And then the big old Nameless Thanos. So this Nameless Thanos is pretty tough. It's not the toughest Nameless Thanos out there, but he is a pretty tough one. If you want to cheese this fight, you can use Wither with Deathless She-Hulk or Spider-Man 2099 and prevent him from ever gaining any power. It's kind of funny to just, sort of cheese this fight in its entirety with that ability. Any character that has Wither of like 100% potency or more can just completely prevent Thanos from gaining any power. But if you don't have options like that, Onslaught works very well for this fight. Deathless Thanos himself also works very well. Kushala, Jean Grey, anybody can do this fight, but I highly recommend running like Deathless She-Hulk, Quicksilver, or Spider-Man 2099, and just preventing Thanos from ever gaining any power. So now, if I were to build a team like in 2025, in November 2025 for the Ordeal, I think my team would look something like this. I think I would have She-Hulk, I would have Onslaught, I would have Deathless Thanos, I would have an option for like a Mojo. So I would consider putting in like Quicksilver or Spider-Woman maybe, but I think at the end of the day, I would probably end up going with somebody like Quicksilver. And then for my fifth option here, I've got She-Hulk, I've got Onslaught, I've got Thanos, I've got Quicksilver. I think for my fifth option, I would probably want somebody for Kilmonger, and so I would consider bringing in a character like Scream or somebody like Venom to handle Kilmonger and kind of turn off the nodes there. So if I was doing the Ordeal in 2025, if I had to do it again, I'd probably consider using a team similar to this, but the reason I made this video and I mentioned all of those different characters is to show that you can use a lot of different teams and have a lot of different like team building exercises with this content. It's not super difficult. It's hard, but it's not like the most difficult content in the world. It's very worth the rewards, especially for the effort involved, and I highly recommend doing it because while it is tough content, it's definitely worth it for the rewards. The rewards are still very relevant. Tier 7 Basic is super huge. Titan Nexus, obviously, half of an Awakening Gem. Those are really good things and very valuable for like a new Valiant to get access to, especially if you have a couple of decent 7 stars on your roster. So thank you so much for watching this video revisiting the Ordeal. Please let me know down in the comments below who you would use, or if you have any other options or have questions for other potential options for characters if I didn't mention any characters specifically. So thank you again so much for watching, and if you're going to Summoners Fest in just a couple of days, make sure to stop by and say hi. I'll be there, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you all. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.